So today we're going to discuss JDAviz 5.0 and how we can use it to analyze JDAviz data. My name is JWebbinar. I'm a staff scientist here at Space Telescope, and I work as part of the JDAviz team. So JDAviz that I'm going to discuss today, we're specifically going to be focusing on some of the newer upgrades to JDAviz, but if you are a new beginner, we're also going to introduce you to JDAviz and all the wonderful things that you can do with it. So what is JDAviz and how can we use it? So JDAviz is an open source Python package that we use to visualize and analyze web and even other data such as Hubble, Roman, or ground-based. We can use it to look at images, IFU 3D cubes, 2D and 1D spectra, and catalogs in order to look at tables or even scatter plots of those catalogs. It can be used multiple ways, including in a Jupyter notebook, which you're going to be using today. However, you can also use it, embed it in a web page, and hopefully coming soon as a standalone application, something that you can just double click on your desktop and open, similar to DS9. You might have actually seen JDAviz in the wild if you haven't actually used it in Python before. It's on JDocs, so you can get information from it straight from JDocs. You can also use it in MAST previews. So here I'm showing two screenshots of MAST and mission MAST, and there's these two little buttons that you can click on in order to preview your images that will actually show you pop up your images in JDAviz. And of course, the Roman Nexus, everything you want to do with that in the Roman Nexus to look at Roman data, you can also use JDAviz in the Nexus, which of course you'll be able to use quite soon after the launch. So JDAviz, deconfig, what does that mean? Essentially, that just means we're in this new version 5.0. We have a lot of changes that I'm going to get into. But what exactly JDAviz is it allows you to open up images, spectra, things like that. So here I'm just showing an example of loading an image straight from MAST, and you can then load, say, another image right on top of it, align them in different filters, blink them to inspect these differences. You could then load a catalog of all the sources in your image, and then highlight all the locations in this image. And these are just very simple, quick look analysis that you can do just to see what exactly is happening. You could also load an IFU cube and examine all the spaxels, say, of a planet forming a star, like Beta Pictoris, that I'm showing here. And then extract a 1D spectrum of the stellar PSF straight from the 3D cube without doing any other analysis. It'll auto-extract it for you. So today's webinar, we're going to work through how to use some of these features and expand on these more, try to show off all the different capabilities of JDAviz and how you could potentially use it for your own research. So great, that's essentially what JDAviz is, but how do I get it? How do I download it? How do I install it? How do I use it? So everything lies essentially on GitHub. And I actually have all these links that I will additionally copy and paste into the Slack channel for everyone. And on the chat. So JDAviz lives in GitHub. You can find it in the Space Telescope GitHub, JDAviz. You can also find it straight from the Read the Docs. And we have a bunch of examples on GitHub as well in JDAviz, a repo itself. And there's also a repo called j.notebooks, which provides more than just JDAviz tutorials, but a ton of walkthroughs of different workflows you can use with web data. Highly recommend checking it out. And you can also get to JDAviz straight from the JDocs. So at the very bottom of the JDocs documentation, there's a post-pipeline data analysis section. Underneath that, you can find all the tutorials for JDAviz and even find previous webinars as well. Okay, so you want to use JDAviz. How can you open it? What do you do? So if you want, the first thing you need to do if you want to do it through Python is pip install it. It's all pip installable. in order to download it. And then if you want to open it just in a web browser, you can just type Jdaviz in a terminal. That's it. It'll automatically open up in a web page in a localhost browser. And then you just click on the Jdaviz icon that's shown here right in the middle. And then you can load your data by following the instructions in the application itself. However, I will note with this method, you can't use any of the API calls or any of the Python in a cell that you would be able to use in a notebook. Be all through the GUI. However, you can also open it up in a Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook. So same thing, after you pip install it, you can open up a Jupyter Lab, open up a new notebook, and then just type import Jdaviz, then jdaviz.show, and that will open up the application, as I'm showing here in this screenshot. You can then download data or even use the Jupyter interface in order to load data into the application, which we'll go all through in our demonstrations. But it's simple as that. And then hopefully coming soon, we'll have a standalone application you can download and then just double click to open up. So if you are a previous user of Jdaviz, we've had some major updates since April of 2026. Jdaviz is always actively being worked on. We have a huge team here at Space Telescope that's always pulling out major updates, major changes based on feedback and things that we're finding while we're working on it. And so one of the biggest updates is that we've moved away from the preconcept configurations you might remember. These were called like InViz or SpecViz, 2D SpecViz. And it's now one unified mixed viewer application. So here I'm showing on the right, you can have an image open with catalog markers. You can have a scatter plot open, and you can even have a catalog all open all at the same time. Whereas before, you could only have an image open, or a spectra open, or a catalog open. We also added Astro Query and catalog support to Jdaviz as well. So it's now all in one application together. So if you want to check it out, or if you have Jdaviz already installed in your computer, please make sure to update to 5.0.1 or greater in order to use this new deconfigured, because there's no more configurations anymore, this new version, this updated version as well. And all of this was implemented due to feedback from the community, users like you. So your opinions, your thoughts, your feedback really helps us continuing to improve this app. So please fill out that survey so we can continue to make amazing new updates. Okay, so what are we actually doing today? So we have 3 demonstrations. They're going to walk you through different parts of Jdaviz. And if you're an experienced user, some of this might be, you might know what's happening, but we're going to start assuming everyone is a new beginner and walk you through everything. So in part 1, we'll just be using the application, just the GUI, the UI. And we'll walk through how to load images directly from MAST, how to visualize data, and how to use Astro Query. In part 2, we're going to be using both the application and actually using Python calls and combining them together. And in this notebook, we'll be looking at how to identify emission lines and do a quick look redshift extraction using an IFU cube. And then in part 3, we'll only be using Python calls. And with that, we're going to be looking at how to extract spectra and do a line analysis on 2D spectra. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears now. So that's kind of our introduction. I'm going to switch gears now and focus on introducing you to the Jdaviz interface and what it looks like, how you can find everything, give everyone a brief, broad overview before we dive in doing it yourself. So when you open up Jdaviz, you get this application. This is our landing page. This is what you're going to see. It's going to have a nice empty viewer on the right-hand side, and then a bunch of menus on the left-hand side. On the top left, you have the application toolbar. This is where you're going to find all of your menus in order to load data, to analyze data, essentially all the tools you'd need to work with your data. On the far right-hand side, you have a search bar. This is where you can search for the different plugins or the different things in the application. And then also helper tools including what Python version you're on, how to turn on API hints, which we'll get into, and even how to pop the application out into its own window if you're in a Jupyter notebook. We then have this loading data menu, and this is where you're going to load all of your data into JDAViz, which we will get into all in lots of detail in our notebooks. Once your data has been loaded, it will appear in this viewer. The viewers, you can have multiple viewers open, and they will all have a tab with the name of the viewer. If you have multiple images in your viewer, you can press B to blink those images. Here I'm just showing my image as a 3D RGB image. But you could have them as all grayscale and then flip through them all. As a reminder, you can have multiple viewers in your single JDAViz application. So here I'm just showing that screenshot from before, showing the multiple viewers. And you're able to actually move these viewers around. You can just click on the gray tab and drag them if you have multiple of them. On the far right-hand side of the JDAViz application, you have you have a bunch of letters. This is your data menu. This essentially shows you what data sets are open up in your viewer. If you click on any of these letters, you can see it pops up essentially a legend that shows you which data sets are open. You're able to turn on and off the visibility of these different data sets that you have open. You can rename the data sets instead of the long web data set name. You could rename it to something simpler. And you can even remove a file from the viewer or even the whole application if you choose so from this data menu. Oops. That should be moved down a bit to cover these toolbars right here. These toolbars allow you to do things like zoom and pan or create regions or even blink your images. Essentially all the things you want to do just with your what's in your viewer at a time. And if you have a Spectra open, you'll have slightly different items in your toolbar, as you'll see later on. If you move your mouse over any part of your image or any part of your Spectra in a viewer, you're going to see the mouse location on this kind of middle left-hand side. If you have WCS coordinates and you've turned them on when you loaded your data or through one of the analysis plugins, you'll be able to see the world coordinate system as well as the pixel location and the value, which can be super handy to have all that information. So I've talked about the loading, the data menu. You also have a saving data menu that I'm not going to quite go into, but it allows you to save images or Spectra from JDAViz. More importantly, you have a plotting options and unit conversion data menu. This allows you to change things like your color map or your stretch, anything you want to change in the plots. And then you have a units, which allows you to change anything unit related to your data. You then have a metadata, markers, and logger data menu. So metadata allows you to see the metadata of your file. Markers allows you to create markers in your viewer or calculate the distance between two markers. And then the logger just shows you kind of the log of what's been happening. Did things load successfully? Did things get created successfully? And then finally, and probably the most important, is our Analysis Tools plugin. This will be all of the different tools that you can use in order to do quick look analysis of your data. Things like orienting in the sky or showing a compass, doing aperture photometry on the fly, showing different footprints from the Webb or Hubble or Roman telescopes, doing image profiles. If you have a Spectra, it would allow you to do line modeling and things like that, which we'll get all into. So yeah, that is our interface for JDAViz. That's all I have to show you now.